Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the CSA Fireside. And we are joined by comrades from NANS, the National Association of Nigeria Students. Did I say it correctly?
Yeah, you're another.
Okay. Sometimes I mix it up with NANSO, and the abbreviation is similar. I am the chairperson of the CSA, and I'm going to invite my colleagues to introduce themselves, starting with Chidubem.
Okay, thank you very much, Ben, and welcome everyone. I'm Chidubem Wibe. I'm the country representative of the Commonwealth Students Association in Nigeria. I'm also a special assistant to the president of NANS on SUG affairs. And it's my pleasure to be here on this episode of the CSA Fireside.
What does SUG mean?
Oh, it means student union government. You know, NANS is well structured, yeah. So there are, in every campus, in every institution, there are a leadership of the students called the Student Union Government, or SRC, Student Representative Council in some other countries. Yeah, so that's what SUG means. And I am all the SUG presidents are directly under me, working under the presidency of the NANS president.
Thank you. I will go with Senator. Silas? No, you're not audible. No, not hearing you. All right, resolve that. Let me go with the non-zone C coordinator while you resolve your audio issue.
Okay, my name is Comrade Azak Shedrak. I'm the coordinator, National Association of Nigerian Students, representing the North Central region, and also the chairman of all coordinators in Nigeria, representing the president of NANS. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And Chidi, are you able to unmute? We're not hearing you.
Yeah, I'm Comrade Nzako Chidi, the coordinator, NANS, Southeast, Zone F.
Thank you, sir. I see Carson on the call. Silas, are you able to unmute now?
Good afternoon. I'm Cousin Moses. Yeah. I just saw the link on Senator Kerm Silas WhatsApp status, so I decided to join. My name is Moses from Enugu. All right.
Thank you, Moses. I guess Silas isn't able to unmute as yet, but we'll get right into it. Give me the history of the NANS. Who's taking that question?
Okay, this is over 43 years old now. It started as far back as 43 years ago, whereby during the Ali Must Go struggle, which is one of our most known struggle in the national Nigeria students, we had to kick against all forms of victimizations in our country. Of Nigerian students, one of our modus operandi is that as a pressure group, we serve as watchdog to all Nigerian students, both at home and in diaspora. So upon the association, after when the association was formed 3 years ago, we had 3 zones. We had the zone A, the zone B, and the zone C. So as time passes by, around 1996, the zones were now divided into 4, of which it was now divided into zone A, B, C, and D. And just 2 years back, we had another division into geopolitical zones, which is also the zone A, B, C, D, E, and F. These divisions into zones helps to compartmentalize the structures and helps we to access all the geopolitical zones. That's the zone A, which is the northwest, zone B, which is the south-south, zone C, which is the north-central region of Nigeria, zone D, which is the southwest, zone E, which is the northeast, and zone F, which is the southeast. All these zones are being headed by the National Executive Council. The National Executive Council is being headed by the president of NANS, humbly led by Usman Umar Barambu, His Excellency. While we also have the Senate arm. The Senate arm is led by the Senate President, down to the Zonal Executive Council, led by the 6 zonal coordinators and their executives, before moving to the Joint Campus Council. This Joint Campus Council is located in each state in Nigeria, including the Federal Capital Territory, and they are being headed by the chairman. And this chairman work directly with the Zonal Executive Councils. And this chairman also control the student union government in each of their states. The student union governments, of which Chidubem is the SSA on SUG matters in the campuses, they report back directly to him while he takes correspondence down to the president of NANS. And this correspondence helps to make sure all the structures are good. Where there's a struggle on ground, the SUG are expected to start, because we operate in the 3 C's in NANS. We have what they call the consultation, we have what they call the consolidation, and we have what they call the confrontation. If there's an issue on ground, the SUG presidents are expected to start the confrontation. So, start the consultation. So after they exhaust their own strength, they can report back to the state structure, which is the Joint Campus Council. If it is much for them, they report back to the Zonal Executive Council. And if the Zonal Executive Council cannot handle it, they take it back to the presidency of NANS, where the SA to the SUG affairs and the president of NANS all come down to ensure that all structures' interests are being protected. So there were times where we had led so many struggles, like the Safe Education Rally around 2018. The Safe Education Rally was a rally that the president and all other structures had to storm the Ministry of Education when we had issues as regards ASUU strike. So students have stayed at home for more than 6 months. And we said enough is enough. We had to go there, storm the ministry. And by God's grace, after 2 weeks, we got our freedom. We also had a similar struggle as far back as 2021, when students had stayed home for 8 months. So we had what they call an Operation Open Campus, and also an Operation University of the Streets. So we located all our properties down to Abuja, which is the Federal Capital Territory. We stayed on the streets and also ensured we had engagement with the ministers. So we have our off-campus and on-campus activities that we undergo. The off-campus activities are like our sensitizations, rally that helps us to sensitize against drug abuse, all forms of campus militarization. So we operate basically on a closed system, and each structure knows its hierarchy. And NANS, I tell you, is very compartmentalized, and we engage when things are difficult. As a pressure group, we consult, we consolidate. Then when it's too much and we don't have answers, we go out to the street to confront. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The 3 C's. I hope our listeners heard that. Consult, consolidate, confront. So you answered a bit of the second question, which is to tell us about the achievements of NANS. Is there another contributor who would like to speak to the achievements, some of the achievements of the organization? Unless you want to continue.
Zoef, are you there? Well, before he comes, some of the achievements in recent time, we have had partnership with the NNPC, which is the Nigerian National Petroleum Limited. So we have had partnership with them as regards ways in which we as an organization and stakeholders can be able to produce graduates that will work and also see how fuel can circulate speedily on ground. So times where we have fuel subsidy issues, we don't just go to the street again to confront. So instead, we report back to our president, which our president set up a committee that would also ensure that this committee would go around and ensure that there is fuel in all locations. So we have that cordial relationship now with NNPC, and we have been working around the clock. I think that's an achievement. We also have a good, strong relationship with CBN. During our last inauguration, they partnered with us and brought some souvenirs from part of their project, which is known as INERA. So also again, we have this cordial relationship with the fire service, the NSCDC, that's the civil defense, and the ministry. We're able to establish a cordial relationship with the Minister of Defense, in which the president led the delegation to the Minister of Defense, and we have that one-on-one relationship. Even the president of Nigeria, as at 2 months ago, the leadership of NANS were with him, and we had all sorts of engagements with him. And after the outcome, he promised to release 3,000 buses to all structures of NANS. That's the student union government down to ease off our stress. So we have had this relationship and we keep pushing it forward. So we have much achievements, but as I said, we have numerous structures in NANS, down from the student union government, down to the JCC. Even today, as we speak, one of our own is being appointed as the senior special assistant to Kwara State Governor on student matters. And he was a former JCC chairman of Kwara State. So we have numerous persons. Our vice president is now a House of Rep member, and we have been able to achieve the student loan bill. The student loan bill, when it was brought by the current chief of staff now, some parts didn't favor us. There were parts where we had increments of fees, and there were some parts that were unfavorable to the less privileged. So we're able to use our vice president, Comrade Bashir Goro, who is a House of Rep member representing Sokoto, to be able to edit it. So now students will be able to benefit that loan, and even the less privileged will be comfortable collecting. So I believe that's an achievement, and it was done by the president of NANS through his cordial relationship with the House of Representative member. So I don't know if Chidubem would like to add one or two things as regards the achievements of their session.
The president of NANS have achieved quite numerous feats, since he assumed office. A good number of which have been highlighted by the Zone C coordinator. As regards equal and access to quality education, the president of NANS haven't relented in advocating, for the rights of Nigerian students. In several locations where, for example, in the past administration, one of our students was arrested by the First Lady of the Federation for making a comment on Twitter. The NANS president came out on the streets and mobilized Nigerian students, and we protested against such acts, not just because of that incident, but to avoid and mitigate against future occurrence of such incidents. On several other occasions, the NANS president have stepped in to intervene in campuses to make sure that students aren't victimized. We've had cases of gender abuse and gender-based violences, in our campuses. One of which the incidents happened in University of Calabar, where a dean, was accused of sleeping with female students to pass them. The NANS president have stepped in on several of these, situations and brought remedy, to them. So part of which the Zone C coordinator have highlighted the relationship, with the government to make sure that the dividends of democracy is brought down to the campuses. Emphasizing a little on the students' loan bill, it was one of the first bills that was passed by the current administration when they came up on board, and they really showed the commitment of the government to the welfare of the students. And then it wasn't so long after the president signed the bill, the NANS president had a courtesy visit to the president of the federation to highlight, and emphasize more on the students' needs, and dividends that we expect in our constituency. And the president gave listening ears. Some of those advocacies and more are that which the president have advocated for on behalf of Nigerian students in the present regime. So this is just to cap and eyes what the dossier coordinator have said. Thank you.
Thank you. Tell us about the relationship between NANS and the government of Nigeria.
Okay.
Like as I've said,
yes, please go ahead.
the relationship between NANS and the government of Nigeria has been cordial. Just 3 weeks ago, we had our Senate meeting at the level of Imo. And it was because we had a cordial relationship with the Minister of Defense. He was able to put a call direct to the governor of Imo State, of which we were hosted. The governor of Imo State doubles as the chairman of All Progressive Governors Forum. Each time we call on them, we get steady response. In fact, even as we speak now, there is palliatives that the government are preparing for Nigerian students. It's just that the secretary of the committee traveled down to Saudi Arabia, and upon returning, she came back with illness. So once all these things have been put in place, I believe everything has been cordial. Since our president came on board, the approach has been diplomatic approach. Each time we need anything, the president has assigned the chief of staff, His Excellency Femi Bajamila, to be our point of contact. So we have also partnered with the NCC, that's the Nigerian Communication Commission, to enable us host our Senate sitting at the level of National State University, KFE. We have numerous agencies that we work with, even the upstream and downstream of the petroleum sectors. They were able to host our seminar at the level of ABU Zaria. So in fact, each time we call at the level of the National Nigerian Students, since we have numerous structures, the president just plays the presiding role. The structure in Kwara partners with the Kwara governor to host events. They hosted our 5th event, launched magazines as regards campus vices and the rest. Imo State hosted a program 1 week ago with the governor. Another program is still going to Imo State again, which is the National College of Education students next week. So if we don't have all this relationship, they won't be offering all these services. But I've been able to develop trust over time with our leadership, since we have just one structure and it is well compartmentalized like a brand chain. So we have been able to partner well, even as regards ICT with NIDA and other agencies. And we're hoping strongly to still fixing, since it's just an administration that is starting. About 3 of our members, the immediate past president of NANS, Ashefon, the former coordinator of Zone A, Faki, and also one of our members, Dotun from Ekiti, they have all gone for screening at the level of senior special assistant to the president. So by God's grace, once that is out, we are hoping to have one of our members and SSA to the president. But even the Daily Alaki and the rest that have been appointed at the level of media, there are people that are close to us. For the very first time, we have had a very young Minister of State Education, in person of His Excellency Wisdom, that relates with us very well. So we have a listening president that listens to us, and we have a good working relationship.
So, gentlemen, would you agree with me? Well, I'm not asking for agreement. I'd like your opinion. With the cordial nature of the relationship between NANS and the government, you're doing more consulting than confronting during this time. And
Yes.
would you say that you are experiencing more effectiveness when the government is willing to consult and it doesn't have to escalate to confrontation?
Yes, very well.
And am I correct to say that NANS's preferred mode is to consult?
Yes, consultation is more preferable because it is known as the diplomatic approach,
Yes.
where even when we had issues on ground as regards NLC strike, so NLC wanted us to take sides with them as one of the largest, because we have population strength of over 40.1 million. NLC wanted us to take sides with them as regards their looming strike. But what the president of NANS did was play a consultation role with both parties, met with the NLC president, gave him the reasons why there's no need to go on strike. Because once NLC goes on strike, ASUU also goes on strike, because ASUU is also a body under NLC. Met with ASUU too, told them there's no need to go on strike.
My
Why?
brother,
Because
I want us to make a habit of saying the words instead of saying the abbreviation, because we have listeners who are not from Nigeria, right? So when you say ASUU, you're referring to the academic. Go ahead.
Okay, that's the NLC, is the Nigerian Labour Congress. Then when I say ASUU, I mean the All Academics Staff Union of Nigeria. So the president was able to meet with them and give them reasons why there should be no strike. Why we also have the TUC, which is the Trade Union Congress. They are also a body under NLC, that's the Nigerian Labour Congress. The president was also able to meet with them. And lastly, we consulted via the chief of staff to the president, that's His Excellency Femi Bajamila, to also help us on the need why Nigerian students must not go back to strike. And at the long run, the president heed to our advice through his chief of staff. They had a series of meetings which lasted more than 12 hours, and the strike was aborted. So I believe we have achieved more via consultation rules, and the government are always ready to listen to us, and we prefer that approach, the diplomatic approach.
Any of you, please explain to our listeners the issue of the strikes in Nigeria. Explain it as though this is somebody who is not from Nigeria and they don't know about how these strikes operate and the effect of it. The first time I was told about strikes, I didn't realize it had to do with teachers and lecturers actually saying they're not coming to work, which means students can't come to school to learn. Tell us, what is this strike about? Maybe Trudy, when you want to go ahead.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you are. But you just froze.
Okay, before he comes on, the strike, it has been an agitation as regards their an agreement that was reached 2009.
Okay, am I still audible?
You're audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay, yeah. So so the impact of ASUU strikes on Nigerian students cannot be overstated, because these strikes have disrupted the educational journey of countless students, causing prolonged delays in their academic pursuit and jeopardizing their future prospects. It is crucial that we address this issue at this point, the far-reaching consequences, and also work towards finding sustainable solutions. Like you rightly introduced, in layman terms, ASUU strike is all about university staffs protesting and refusing to go to work mostly because of lack of payment of salaries, or probably when they are advocating for increments in their salaries, as well as other emoluments that they are due. So we need to acknowledge that Nigerian students bear the brunt of these strikes, and we faced disrupted academic calendars, prolonged study periods, and an uncertain academic environment. That it not only affects our educational progress, but also takes a toll on our mental health and overall well-being as well. So ASUU strikes, it extends beyond the immediate academic realm, because students face financial burdens. I'm talking about the student aspect, how it would affect us as students, from the student angle of view. We face financial burden due to extended study periods, the additional accommodation costs, because when they go on strike, students pay rent, especially for those that stay off campus in order to attend lectures. And when they go on strike for a period of time, the students, the landlords, they don't allow the student. You have to pay, your rent when you resume. So the financial burden, due to additional accommodation costs and delayed graduation, these challenges, they exacerbate, the already existing socioeconomic inequalities among students, hindering our ability to access quality education and limiting, our opportunities for personal and professional growth. It's important, that we acknowledge that collaboration between stakeholders is essential. And at this point, CSA has stepped in, to discuss about these issues. It's imperative that the Nigerian government, ASUU, themselves, student bodies, and other relevant parties need to engage, because like the representative of the NANS president, highlighted earlier, I think around this time last year was when the 6 month strike was just called off. I think I remember it was around October 2022 that the strike was called off. The strike lasted for about 6 months, starting from around early 2022. And negotiations was ongoing. That was the first challenge that the NANS president Usman Barambu met on assumption of office. And he took the bull by the horn. And how we were able to navigate through and resolve the solution was through negotiations. And I must reiterate that negotiations should always be driven, by a shared commitment to the welfare of Nigerian students, because ASUU, they are advocating for their own rights as civil servants. They are advocating for increment in their salaries, better, for generally for their welfareism. So, but then, what about we that are Nigerian students? We often share this sentiment, and we always put it to them that sometimes they are selfish, because okay, it's fine. We agree that some of you are underpaid. Maybe the federal government haven't invested so much in education like they should. The money that they invest in first subsidy, let's say taken from the past administration, and some other things that they invest money in the national budget. If they invest an adequate measure of it in education, we shouldn't be where we are at the moment. So we understand what they are trying to advocate for. They're advocating for a bigger investment in the education sector as well as their welfare. But we must also emphasize the importance of proactive measures to prevent future strike, because this involves addressing root causes of the issues, that leads to the industrial action, such as adequate funding for universities. The current government removed first subsidy, upon assumption of office, with the intention of investing, the money in other sectors, which is also very important. And by investing in the education sector and fulfilling commitment made to university staff, we can create an environment conducive for uninterrupted learning, and academic excellence. Furthermore, we should also explore innovative approaches to ensure the continuity of education during periods of strike, because okay, there are different ways of protesting. Okay, the most hurtful is the sit at home, the no lecture form of strike, and it's bad, because it mitigates it's very, very cancerous, and affects Nigerian students negatively. So I think we should employ more approaches, to strike. The utilization of technology-enabled learning platforms. So if they have to advocate, and go on those protests, there should be other platforms, that should be adopted to mitigate and reduce the side effects on students. Distant education programs, alternative teaching methodologies can also help to mitigate the adverse effects on students, and also provide, students with avenues, for continued learning. Now, the advocacy and awareness campaigns, they play a vital role in raising public consciousness, about the challenges faced by Nigerian students. Advocacy, such as this, because this is an engaging platform, and this meeting is very, very important. When we engage the media, policy makers, and the general public, for instance, we can foster a greater understanding of the issues and garner support, for sustainable solutions. There's something I observed in Nigeria when ASUU decide to go on strike. Somehow they get support, from different sectors, because ASUU is under the Nigerian Labour Congress. So there are platforms that support them, but as Nigerian students, sometimes we do not get, very, very organic support. Especially when we're agitating and protesting against the strikes. The impact of ASUU strikes on Nigerian students is a matter of great concern. As my office as the country representative of the Commonwealth Student Association, I'm very, very committed, to working collaboratively with stakeholders to address these challenges and also advocate for the welfare of Nigerian students, because I believe that through constructive dialogue, proactive measures and collective effort, we can create an education system that empowers students and ensures that we have an uninterrupted academic journey. So that's my contribution, on this particular topic.
Coming from a small island, children, everything may seem much smaller in comparison to a nation of 200 and, is it now 20 million or more?
Yeah, we're about 240 million currently.
So when I hear of a strike from the academic community of 6 months and 8 months, it just seems extremely excessive. It is extreme to me. Because when the teachers strike in Jamaica, it's a few days. And when it goes into a few days, it's as if everything is upended. If the nurses strike in Jamaica, it's for a few days. When the police strike, I can't even recall having a real police strike. But can students from other countries who have never experienced something like this imagine that you go into a university where you expect a 3 to 4 year degree being extended by as much as 2 years for reasons totally out of your control because the teachers refuse to teach? If by lending our solidarity as the CSA to this cause, we can even help with 1 centimeter of movement towards a positive solution, I hope that we would have done so. I know that NANS has its finger on the pulse of the situation, but I think it's important that the international community, education ministers, youth officials across the Commonwealth support NANS and civil society groups who want to see an end to these extensive strikes. It's unimaginable. But you gave us some of the details of how it affects student life. Is there anything else that you want to highlight? Any other negative impact that these strikes have on the average student?
As you have said, it affects the finance of students, most especially those staying off campuses. because we operate via sessions, and these sessions we operate at the level of our schools and campuses. The hostel they pay will be able to last a session, but if you stay off campus and you go on strike for 8 months, the landlord doesn't care, because a typical landlord believes in collecting his money annually, and he doesn't have any interest or doesn't have any concern with what you get or the time you stay or your academic performances. All he or she, a typical landlord, wants to know is after a complete year, he or she should get his money at hand. So, in fact, Nigerian student leadership have to consult with some landlords at times for them to waive funds for them, so that Nigerian students can at least enjoy some benefits. Most of the times we find that difficult, but sometimes we also achieve that through, because some landlords are considerate and some are not. But that's also an effect on our part. During the ASUU strike too, we find out that some students become stranded, in as much as them getting money, because like at the level of University of Abuja, we have the student staff that we pay monthly. But once they strike, they won't be able to receive that payment because there's no work for them. So we find out that some students engage in all forms of social vices, like prostitutions and cultism. So like they say, an idle man is a devil workshop. So that ASUU strike creates this idleness in them. There was a time where we were faced with strike, and we're also hit with NSAS pandemic in Nigeria. I'll call it a pandemic because it was what the nation took personal at the level of youth. It was able to receive strong strength and mobilization capacity because students were at home and they wanted to retaliate. So they took the anger in them as regards the strike and channeled it towards the NSAS riot. So each time we have this strike, as it was caused as a result of a memorandum of understanding that was signed as far back with the federal government. They also had an agreement as far back as 2007. So each time federal government agrees to this side, they always don't fulfill their parts. But these parts are also supposed to fulfill what we call the needs assessment. This needs assessment helps to develop the infrastructural amenities in our campuses. We find that most of our buildings are TED fund projects sponsored. We are unable to get all these projects sponsored or all these infrastructures if we don't raise these funds. So federal government are supposed to fund them, but most times we have these agreements, they don't play their own part. So you find out that when ASUU is putting on pressure, the federal government release 1 or 2 funds. So as an association, National Association of Nigerian Students, we have always encouraged federal government to meet up without pressure. Like at a time like this, there is no pressure as regards ASUU. This is the time they are supposed to be paying. But you find out that they won't do the needful until when they strike. So, but ASUU have been able to keep firm as a pressure group with all forms of integrity. And I know with the new administration now, because the Chief of Staff, Femi Bajamila, he was also the Speaker House of Representatives, and during his time, he was the key negotiator as regards ASUU strike. So we believe that he will be able to negotiate out this administration so that they will have successive sessions. So we are hopeful. I can see that the Zone F coordinator has also come online. I would also like him to say 1 or 2 things as regards the ASUU strike. Comrade Chidi, I don't know if you're online. Thank you.
Well, if he's unable to contribute at this time, I want to move to the issue of the oil subsidy. Could you explain what this issue is about? Again, for the non-Nigerian who doesn't know about this oil subsidy that President Tinubu removed, why it was removed, what the oil subsidy, what its purpose was, just a brief overview before we ask how has the oil subsidy removal impacted students in Nigeria? Go ahead.
There have been numerous hardships as regards the fuel subsidy, because you find out that as far back as 6 months to 7 months ago, a typical Nigerian could purchase fuel at level of 195 naira. But now we are buying fuel at the level of 615, in some places 600, some places 620, and in some places 610. So all these discrepancies has caused an increase in transportation, and an increase in transportation will also cause an increase in commodities, because they vary across the period, and an increase in transportation will also cause an increase in commodities in all ramifications in Nigeria. So we find out that what we buy at the level of 10 naira is now like 30 naira, and that increment in price of fuel has also caused an increment in school fees. We find out that all tertiary institutions now are increasing their fees, because if diesel was sold at a cheaper rate, now it's now high, and there's no steady light on campus. We have to run diesel, and for schools, federal government schools, most especially, to meet up, all forms of paper, biro, pen are being increased. So this hardship now is telling more on Nigerian students. That's why we keep agitating that as part of the palliative, federal government should help to subsidize school fees. The buses they want to release now, 2,000 buses, should also run via gas, or they should also run a subsidized rate, so that Nigerian students can patronize. Why? Because as fees have increased, we are suffering. Our fees, our transportation, our feeding, and all these are things Nigerian students must dwell on and capitalize on. So it has not really been easy. We have been engaging, and we are still hoping for positive outcome.
All right. Thank you for that. So you answered the question about the impact, but I wanted the context. But I'm going to read something from an article that I have here. So before President Tinubu's inauguration, the Nigerian government spent about 400 billion naira, or 500 billion million US dollars monthly to subsidize petroleum imports. The subsidy was the difference between the projected open market price and the pump price. To make up for the market shortfall, the government issued it as a direct or indirect payment to individuals or companies that imported refined products. In 2022, Nigeria's House of Representatives set up a panel to investigate its petroleum subsidy regime. So that's the subsidy, the oil subsidy that is being referenced. And our brother took us through an explanation of how it has affected student life. But again, just so that, our listeners can appreciate the real life impacts of this. Imagine that you are able to buy, for those of us who drive, or, well, it affects you whether you drive or not. Imagine that you were able to buy gas for $1, and overnight it jumped to $4. Every aspect of your daily life will be influenced. Primarily your transportation, the cost of goods, as he explained, your tuition fees are affected. All your bills, your utility bills will likely increase. But tell us, what is NANS's position on the removal of the fuel subsidy? Because in one light, it may seem like such a bad thing, but I believe that there was a good purpose behind the removal. What is NANS's position on the removal of the fuel subsidy? You're mute. No, we can't hear you. You need to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can't hear you now.
Okay, our position at the level of Nigeria's National Association of Nigerian Students is simple. The intentions are good, which is to boost our economy at the level of, because you know, there is at the borders, if you have traveled around using the road, you find out that our fuel are being exported out through criminal means, and that has caused such shortage of fuel for us. But you find out now neighboring countries are suffering from that because as the fuel has skyrocketed, they are unable to extort the system now. So our position is simple. The money that has been gotten via the subsidy removal, they should channel it to reduction of school fees and also bring these buses, 3,000 buses that were promised to our campuses so that we can have ease of transportation, less fees, and that will reduce the hardship of Nigerian students. So it is very simple. The money gotten, about 2.5 billion that have been shared across states, get a good amount, channel it into the education sector, lessen our school fees, and also empower our campuses with buses to ease off the stress. And before the economy continues to get to boost up, before then, we would have gotten an equilibrium, we believe. So that's why we have been patient as an association.
Okay, thank you. I do see that the intention is infrastructural development, and as you said, to boost the economy. But I absolutely agree that, you know, the lion's share, a significant portion, should go to developing education and educational infrastructure. We're almost ending. The NANS is about to conduct its elections. Do you want to say anything about the elections? A call for peace, a call for fairness? May I hear from both you and Chidibel?
Okay. The process has started. The process started when the Convention Planning Committee was formed at the level of the pre-convention, which is this last Senate meeting. We have done the screening exercise of aspirants. We have over 94 aspirants that are contesting 14 offices. These aspirants are to be cut across the zones, of which only one zone will be producing 4, and 2 other zones will be producing 2 each. Then 3 other zones will produce 3 EXCOs. So we share them all across, and we keep rotating offices. So we as Convention Planning Committee members, because all coordinators are part of the accreditation committee, and we form part of the core mandatory planners of the event. So one thing we always do is that we have written letters to all security agencies to call for both national and local and also international observers. Secondly, we have also written to them to also ensure that they come on ground to mount security. Just day before yesterday again, the CPC chairman alongside the Minister of Defense to also ensure that all security apparatus are ready for our convention. We have just less than 40 days, 42 days to the convention. So everywhere is tensed. We have about 6 aspirants for president. We have about 9 aspirants for Senate presidency, and we have more than 22 aspirants for the 4 available vice presidents. So the election, as we all know, there will be security apparatus on ground. So if we can have maybe observers from the Commonwealth session, it will also serve as a boost. And if they can discuss more with Chidubem to see how they can be more partnership. There were times where we had worked with the All African Student Union to bring in foreign observers. So having the Commonwealth participate fully in this will be a welcome idea. The CPC chairman, after this program, I'm supposed to meet him. So what we want is a free, fair, credible election, and we are working towards it to ensure that there is no faction and we produce a united NANS president. So I know Chidibem will have one or two things to say. Chidibem, can we hear you?
Am I audible now?
You are now, yes.
Okay. Yes. Well said, Zone C coordinator. The process is already on. Just some days back, the screening was concluded for candidates that are aspiring. Need I say, I'm also an aspirant. I know I haven't told you, Ben, about that. I'm contesting for Director of Sports with an intention to join the executive of NANS, for the next regime. A recommendation came, from the African Regional Representative of CSA, Francis Azubike. He suggested that just like NUGs adopted in their last Congress, the use of National Electoral Commission, he was asking whether NANS could adopt working with the INEC, which is the Independent National Electoral Commission, in conducting the next election, with an attempt to ensure a more transparent and a credible election that is devoid of electoral malpractices, and to mitigate against possible chances of faction. Faction is a system that has crippled the effectiveness and efficiency of our national student unions here in Nigeria because of a double standard that is being set, when there are factions. So that the talks are currently ongoing, and if it's going to be possible to adopt that system, proper communication, will be done. Also, the aspect of inviting foreign observers, especially organizations like the Commonwealth Student Association, All African Students Union, the Global Students Forum, as well as some other organizations, other student organizations, to come and observe the proceedings of the election. It's very, very important. And just like the Zone C coordinator rightfully said, he's a member of the CPC, because all coordinators are statutory members of the Central Planning Committee. It's in his place to also advocate, for that, and make sure that the relevant organizations are invited and they come and observe the election. And so far, I'm keeping in touch with the CPC, and I'm relating, the proceedings to the African Regional Representative. And as soon as there is any further update, I'm sure it will be communicated. The date for the convention has been fixed for, I think, 28th November to 4th of December. There are, aside the elective Congress, there are other activities, that have been slated for the NANS convention. So I hope that the CSA will be duly invited, to come and observe the election.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Tell me, Chidibem, what languages do you speak other than English? Same thing for the Zone C coordinator. What languages do you speak outside of English?
Okay. English is the major, but some...
No, for you specifically, what language do you speak?
Okay, me. Yeah, I'm able to speak Hausa, and I can speak Idoma and also Igon,
Okay.
apart from English.
All right. Well, I would like you to leave your closing remarks in Hausa. And Chidibem, you can, I know you speak another tongue, so I wanted to prepare to leave your closing remarks in that language. Yes?
Okay, so a wannan abun da mu yi magana da shi, muna godiya da CSA akan wannan abu. Wannan discussion da muna fance yanzu muna so progress, muna so mu ci gaba da abun da zai fi Nigerian students. So we are happy with the organization, and that's muna godiya, that's thank you to CSA, and we'll keep looking for more partnership through Chidubem. Chidubem is like the right source, and is also a focal point in our nation. So please hold in tight and ensure that we move forward. We also speak broken too. So thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Chidubem, your turn.
Okay, am I audible now? Can you hear me?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Okay, I speak Igbo language. I'm from the Igbo tribe, the southeastern part of Nigeria, and we're under Zone F. So let me just do a little remark in Igbo. Dalo ndi CSA, anyị ekelekwa unu maka ohere a unu nyere anyị ịbịa akpa maka ihe dịrị anyị bụ ndị ntakịrị na ụmụaka, ụmụ akwụkwọ Nigeria. Anyị na-ekene unu, na-asịkwa na ihe ọbụla a ga-eme inye aka ka Nigeria dị mma, na ka ihe gbasara ụmụ akwụkwọ ka ọ dịkwa mma. Anyị ga-eme ihe dị n'ike anyị, dị n'ike amara Kraịst. Anyị na-enekwa anya, na-enwe olileanya na oge na-abịa anyị ga-enwe ohere ịgbakọtakwa otu a, gbakwa ihe dịrị anyị, ma tinyekwa anya maka ọganiru ndị ụmụ akwụkwọ Nigeria na ụmụ akwụkwọ ndị Commonwealth na ụmụ akwụkwọ ndị Africa. Daalụ unu, ekene m unu. That is translation for I deeply appreciate and applaud this organization, the Commonwealth Students Association, and I hope we can have the opportunity to meet again like this and discuss pertinent issues that affect Nigerian students, Commonwealth students, and African students at large. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank
Ben,
you.
I hope, yeah, I hope you enjoyed the dialect. That's our native language.
Absolutely. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. All right. Until our next CSA Fireside, take care and walk good. Thank you so much.
All right.